There's something you need to know about Twitch. The time of just play video games and wait for an audience to come to you is mostly over. So if you want to grow your Twitch stream, you have to be intentional about the kind of people that you want around you, and you have to create content for those very specific people. Some of you, this is gonna sound like total BS, and I actually get it. I ignored this advice my first 4 years on Twitch, but if I had listened to this advice whenever I first got started as a streamer, I'd be miles ahead of where I am now. I spent 4 years spinning my tires and getting nowhere because I thought viewers would just magically show up. If you can really internalize the information that I'm going to share with you in this video, you are going to have a better chance than you've ever had of growing your viewers on Twitch. What's up everyone, it's Ashni. I've been a stream coach for 2.5 years, and this YouTube channel is all about helping you think a lot deeper about your Twitch stream than you really ever have before. Have you seen those successful streamers who seem to know exactly who their audience is? Like maybe you've seen them talk about their demographics or talk about what their viewers like and don't like, or you've seen them be able to make a call based on whether or not their audience is gonna like it, and it's blown your freaking mind, right? Whenever I was a small streamer, I would see stuff like that and I'd be like, how do they know? But here's the thing. This information should not be known by just the most successful Twitch streamers. Every single streamer that wants to succeed on the platform should have this information handy. You should know exactly who you're trying to appeal to, exactly who your viewers are, exactly what kind of content they want from you. And we're gonna drill down into all of that in this video. And if you have any questions, you can actually come to our Discord channel and ask me at discord.gg/ashnichrist. There's also a link for that down below. So the first thing that you need to know, of course, is why should you even choose your audience? Why should you do this instead of just streaming and hoping that people show up? There's really 3 different reasons for this. One is because it's going to make streaming a lot easier on you whenever you know who you are creating your stream for, because you're going to be able to make choices and make decisions that would have plagued you for months and months and months if you were just streaming to anyone. These decisions and these choices that you end up having to make along the way are going to be made a lot easier and a lot faster once you actually know your audience. The second reason is because you want people to resonate with you so deeply that when they show up to your stream, they're like, oh my god, finally, this place is exactly for me. You want them to be able to understand exactly who your content is for, because number 3, that's going to lead to more conversions, and conversions is just a fancy marketing term for more followers, more subscribers, and more community members. Sorry, I had to change my battery, so the frame is totally different than before, but anyways, to get right back into it, believe it or not, every single streamer does this at some point, whether it's consciously or it's subconsciously. They might consciously make the decision that they want to start creating content for a very specific group of people, or they subconsciously start doing things throughout their stream, sharing their lifestyle or who they are, and that ends up driving specific people away and pulling more people that are very specific into their space. So really at some point, everyone starts to do this, and you might be someone who can do this naturally, but a lot of people and a lot of us just can't. We have to make this decision actively and be proactive about the types of spaces that we're creating. This is normally really difficult for streamers for a couple of different reasons. One is because a lot of y'all don't want to make a decision. You don't want to choose an audience because you feel like you're pushing away everybody else, or if someone doesn't fit that very specific demographic, that you're gonna lose them as a viewer, which isn't necessarily true. We're gonna get into that later. It's also difficult for you because you don't know who you are yet. It's so hard to figure out who to create your content for when you don't really know who you are and what you stand for. It seems like a really weird thing to hear someone who's teaching streaming advice or how to be a better streamer, how to be a better content creator in general, to talk about the personal development side and the mindset side, but that part is super important, and I will always stand by that, because y'all, it is so difficult to do all of this stuff if your foundation foundation is not rock solid. This doesn't mean that you have to be super confident. It doesn't mean that you have to know everything about who you are. It doesn't mean that you have to completely have life figured out at all. In fact, some of the best creators don't have any of those things, but making a conscious decision of all of these different ways that you can stand out and grow as a streamer is one of the only ways to actually make this happen anymore, because the platform is so saturated. So anyways, I'm done talking about this, validating this idea. Let's just jump right into that, I forgot what it's called, tablet? It's technically a laptop. Does anyone know how to not look like a third grader's handwriting whenever I'm writing on this tablet? Let me know down below in the comments, please. Okay, so figuring out who your audience is really a 3-step process, baby. See, that looks like a Z. It's ridiculous. Okay, so the way that this is gonna work is, first off, you're gonna start by, and it's really simple, I've kind of already said it already in the video, know who you are, okay? The reason that this is so important is because you cannot create content for people without knowing what kind of content is really going to suit you best. And so if you want to really resonate with people and you want people to come into your space and to stay there for an extended period of time, you have to know what personality traits you have that you can express to them and that you can show off that will keep them around, right? And so the first step in this process, like I said, is really just knowing you. So there are some things that you can ask yourself, or some questions here that will help you figure out a little bit more about you if you don't understand completely who you are yet, which is a lot of you. Honestly, a lot of streamers struggle because they don't know who they are at all. So question number 1 is, what happened in your life that really impacted you? Is there something that went down in your life, in your past, in your history that really left a lasting impression and shaped the person that you are today? The reason that I talk about streaming so much is because I had this very transformative experience where I went full-time and I sucked at it, and the person who supported me the most, who allowed me to be full-time, said that I would never make it on Twitch. And so that experience of having my dream completely taken away from me made me realize, you know what? Yeah, maybe that's happened for me, but maybe I can learn a lot and I can share that with other people so it doesn't happen for them. You probably have a similar experience in your life that has shaped who you are today, that can help you kind of figure out who you want to help or who you want to create your space for. If you've gone through something that's been difficult and you've worked your way through that, that's a transformation that you can probably help other people achieve too. And so you want to think back on your life and see if that transformation is something that would be helpful for other people. If this doesn't work for you, another question that you can ask yourself is, is what are you constantly researching? What do you find yourself wanting to learn more and more and more about? What do you find yourself really just superbly interested in? Superbly, like I haven't not said that in 5 years. I don't know where that came from. But you find yourself so interested in it that you find yourself researching it constantly, and you want to keep up to date with all of the major players in that space. It might be a video game, it might be social media marketing, it might be literally anything. This can be anything, but you researching it constantly means that you care about it, that you're passionate about it in some way. And so that might be something that is worth figuring out how you can use that information to help other people. So if you're researching it, other people are definitely researching it too, and creating a stream based around that thing for everyone to come and share their research together and talk together and work through things together is something that is incredibly valuable. The next question that you can ask yourself is, do you have authority in anything? Have you been a game developer for a while? Are you really great at playing a specific game? Do you have a history of something that has happened in your life that helps you build authority in your space? Okay, so this might mean, for example, I massaged John Boehner, who is an old Secretary of State, and that's like a really weird personality, you know, thing that I could have gone into. I could have made my stream all about massage therapy and talked about health and wellness for gamers if I wanted to. Decided to go a different direction because something else was more passionate in my life, but this is definitely something that you can pull out and use, because this is in your toolbox. If you have built up authority in any specific thing, then you can use that authority to provide people access to more information that they didn't have before. Another question that you can ask yourself is, what am I consistently interested in? So this isn't just a fleeting interest, okay? This isn't like I've been interested in photography for a month and I wanted to learn a little bit more about it, and so I watched all of Peter McKinnon's videos. No, this is like, what do you have a persistent interest in? What have you learned about over years and years and years in your life? This can be as simple as just gaming, y'all. If you have obsessively tried to accumulate information, or if you have just wanted to be in a space, a specific space for a long time, and so you have placed yourself in social circles to be able to do that, this is something that you are persistently interested in that might help you figure out who your audience is. The next question you can ask yourself is, what other streamers do you watch? Why do you watch those people? What is it about those people that keeps you coming back? Because there is a specific reason that you watch the people that you do. You might watch people who are super memey and are just all about that internet culture, right? And so if that's the kind of people that you are drawn to, it's more than likely that your audience is those kind of people too. It might be that you are really into like Animal Crossing and all of those like cute women streamers who have very adorable aesthetic, and they are like very homey, very comforting, and very community oriented. And so that gives you a clue into what kind of content you might want to create as well, because that's something that you are just naturally drawn to. So if you can find the things that you are naturally drawn to, that's going to give you insights into who you are so that you can figure out who your audience is too. The next one is kind of a loaded question, and I know a lot of you are going to be weirded out that I'm asking this, because there was a comment that we had a few days ago of someone who said that whenever someone talks about passion, that's usually their clue to turn off the video. However, passion and purpose are both really important. Let me tell you why. Passion and purpose are two completely different things, okay? Purpose is way more powerful than your passion. Your passion is something that you are consistently interested in enough to want to dedicate an extended period of time to it. So it might be you want to dedicate hours every single day helping people overcome their mental health. You might want to help bring more new people to a specific game that you love. However, passion is not necessarily enough to make you a consistent creator. It's not enough to help you overcome all of the negative stuff that's going to happen in the journey of being a content creator. And so just saying, hey, find something you're passionate about is not nearly enough to carry you to where you want to go. The true way to like unlock this level of dedication in yourself is by becoming passionate about your purpose, whatever your purpose is. And sometimes figuring out what your purpose is takes a lot of time. A lot of people feel overwhelmed whenever they are asked these questions, like figure out your passion, figure out your purpose. They're very heavy questions and they require a lot of internal self-reflection, right? And sometimes that work is really scary because you're like, what if I figure out my passion or my purpose and it's not something that I'm proud of? What if I'm ashamed of the things that I truly love and I feel like I'm truly created for? And the thing is, that overwhelm, that sense of oh no, oh my gosh, how am I going to explain this to people, right? That's something that really everyone goes through because of something called imposter syndrome, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. However, figuring out your passion, figuring out your purpose, and finding a way to accept that part of yourself is really powerful, because once you unlock both of these things and you kind of figure out what they are, and then you figure out how to become passionate about your purpose, that is where true strength and dedication really lies. Because then you're not just doing something that you love every single day, but you're doing something that you love that also gives you meaning in your life, which is what every single freaking human is searching for, y'all. So these are some just basic questions about how you can know yourself, and these are very deep, and you might not be comfortable with this depth of questions yet, but maybe you can ask things that are a little bit more surface level, like what do I like, what do I love, what am I into, what are my interests, what are my likes, my dislikes, and maybe that'll help you get a little bit closer to yourself and help you warm up to the idea of asking yourself questions so that you can eventually get to questions that have this level of depth without you feeling super afraid of asking these questions of yourself. I know a lot of people think that knowing yourself is not super important. Like I said earlier in the video, I stand by the fact that personal development was one of the biggest, most helpful choices that I made whenever I started growing as a streamer. The only reason that I was able to grow to 250 viewers was because I asked myself these tough questions, and I really figured out what I loved, what I was good at, and how this very transformative and kind of like sad moment in my life could be shaped and transformed into something positive. And so this is why figuring out your audience, the first step is really, one, get to know yourself, right? There's a really good analogy that I can use here for you. Whenever you're a streamer, you're probably familiar with the idea that everyone says, hey, I'm a variety streamer here on Twitch, and my space is all about just making sure that you feel comfortable. We all just want to have fun, have a good time, make sure that everyone feels welcome. I call this the gray Power Ranger analogy. Okay, so the gray Power Ranger is the Power Ranger that literally fits in with every other gray Power Ranger, right? So if you don't do anything that stands out and you use that value statement of we're just a variety streamer here on Twitch, you literally don't stand out versus everyone else. And so you blend into all of the gray that exists on Twitch, and you're kind of like in this sea of other people who all say that exact same thing. So you don't stand out at all, which means that people don't know what you stand for, they can't stand behind you, and viewers can't come into your space. However, there's a reason that there is a pink Power Ranger, a yellow Power Ranger, a green Power Ranger, a black Power Ranger. There's a reason that there are all of these other different colors of Power Rangers, and it's because whenever they were creating the show, they knew that they needed to have a specific ranger that every single person in the audience could relate to, and that I kind of like messed up my words there, but could relate to. There were a lot of people who really identified with the pink Power Ranger, and there were other people who identified with the yellow, and other people who identified with the green. One wasn't better than the other. They were all equally important, and they all equally identified with specific members of that audience. And so this is why it's so important for you to figure out who you are, so you know what personality traits to highlight so that people know what color of Power Ranger you are. Now you can use Power Rangers as the analogy here, you can use Hogwarts houses as the analogy here. The truth of what this comes down to is that you need to know which parts of your personality to highlight so that people know what color of Power Ranger you are. Another thing that you can do to figure this out, maybe this hasn't helped you yet so far, so another option that you have is looking at your current audience, okay? You're not going to be able to see this, I guess. Well, maybe. Maybe it looks fine. So looking at your current audience is going to give you a lot of clues about what kind of Power Ranger you are, because it's going to help you understand what type of people you just naturally attract, even if you're not specifically trying to target an audience yet. So you want to look at the people who are currently in your space and just ask yourself what kind of people they are. How old are they? What do they do in their free time? What do they love? What do they all have in common? What are they struggling with right now? Is there a specific kind of person that you are already attracting that you might be able to shift how you present yourself a little bit during your stream so that you can attract more of that specific kind of person? So we're talking a lot about being strategic and knowing yourself so that you can figure out how to attract specific types of people. But something that is really important that I talk about during this entire section is that this whole process really, and specifically this part of the process, is authentic, okay? Because you will get into very big trouble if you do not be honest about who you are. If you are just trying to attract a specific kind of audience because you think that that's the most, I don't know, you think that that's like the largest section of Twitch, or you think that that's the people that you want to attract or you wish that you could attract, you need to be honest about who you are and what you are actually capable of giving people. Because if you put yourself into a demographic of people that you don't truly get along with, that you don't truly understand and want to be surrounded with, it's going to be a miserable experience for you. It's going to show to your audience, and you're going to come across as not authentic, which is going to ruin the trust that you have with the people in your space, and it's going to make them question literally everything, which means you're not going to be able to get sponsors, you're not going to be able to do anything with like sub numbers or tips or any of that kind of stuff, because people don't trust you. If they don't trust you, then they're not going to fulfill any of those other stats that you want to have whenever you're a streamer. So this whole thing has to be true to you. You cannot fake this long term. It has to be authentic. Another thing that you can do here, and the way that I really did this entire process of learning myself, was that I did a lot of exercises, okay? And so I created a workbook, which is all about the exercises that I used to figure out who I was. Because whenever I was trying to stream for 4 years, y'all, I didn't know this information. I had no idea. I was just like, cool, I'm gonna grow a stream. And I started streaming and tried to make it work, and it didn't work. And so what I had to do was really figure out, okay, but what do I honestly have to give people? Like, what are my personality traits? What are the quirks? What's the value that I can give put into the world? And I did that through exercises. So you can get my workbook. There's a link for it down below. I specifically want you to do the Ikigai exercise in that workbook. Your Ikigai is a combination of 4 different things. It is what you it is what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs. And so the idea here is that whenever you can find something that hits all 4 of these points, you enjoy it, you're actually good at it, you can be paid for it, and you get fulfillment because people need it. And so really, whenever it comes down to creating an audience and creating content for that audience, you want to make sure that it hits all of these pieces, because if you only love it and you're good at it, that's great. You're gonna enjoy it and you're gonna be great at it, but it's gonna be really difficult for you to make any money, and it's gonna be really hard for you to pay your bills as a full-time streamer. Or maybe people just don't need it. Maybe they don't want it, and so you love it and you're good at it, but guess what? You're streaming and streaming and streaming and you're enjoying yourself, but nobody needs what you're offering, so you have no viewers. Maybe you can be paid for it and you're really good at it, but you don't enjoy it. And what's the point of doing something that you just legitimately don't enjoy? There's no reason to live a miserable life. So that's a really good exercise. If you haven't done that one already, make sure that you do that. And also make sure that whenever you are exploring yourself and figuring out who you really are, that you are also giving yourself space in the topics that you decide on that you want to offer to people. You're giving yourself the space to evolve. What happens for a lot of people is that it is very difficult to be a content creator long term, because at some point you kind of like, you run out of topics, or you pigeonhole yourself into one space and you end up not being able to grow out of that. And so there are a lot of streamers right now who can only stream one game, otherwise they have literally 0 viewers. And that is a really scary place to be in. If you're a full-time streamer, you kind of have to make the decision that is going to help you pay the bills a lot of the times, which can lead to some lack of personal fulfillment. And we don't want to get you in that position. We don't want you to be miserable just so you can pay your bills, right? We want to make sure that you hit on all 4 of these pieces of the Ikigai philosophy. And so what you want to do is make sure that whatever it is that you learn from all of this information in this knowing yourself section, it gives you space within the topic that you choose to evolve. And because I haven't clearly said it yet, whenever you're doing these exercises or you're asking yourself these deep questions, it should be with the goal of figuring out, what topic do I want to give people? What do I really want to own, right? The problem with a lot of streamers is that they try to target everyone, and when you try to target everyone, you end up not being able to resonate with anyone. So you need to figure out how you can understand a particular niche and really dominate it. Like, how can you be the #1 Dead by Daylight player in the entire community? What is Dead by Daylight missing? We are going to cover that in an upcoming video. Actually, we're going to talk about how to figure out how you can stand out no matter what audience you choose. So make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already. Okay, this is section 1. This was a really freaking long section, I know, but it's done. We're moving on to step 2 here, y'all. Okay, step 2 is going to be really difficult for a lot of you. It's going to be so hard. It's probably the hardest step because you have to make a choice. And guess what? Sometimes making a choice is very, very scary. If you haven't figured this out already, it's scary because you feel like, if I choose this specific audience, that means that I'm not going to be able to appeal to anyone else. That means if someone isn't that very, very specific kind of person, that they're not gonna watch my stream, which means that I'm losing out on viewers. That's actually not what happens though. And so if that's something that is freaking you out right now, let me tell you, you will attract people who are outliers of that specific type of demographic that you chose. You do not have to worry about choosing a specific person and then not being able to attract anyone else. You are going to attract people who just aren't that specific demographic, and that's just what it is. And so hopefully that alleviates a little bit of the decision of like actually making this choice. This is very difficult if you've never decided to create content for a specific person before. Part of that too is because you think that it might not work out. And so why should I invest all of my eggs into the basket of the audience that I choose if it's not going to work out for me? But that's going to be a gamble no matter what you do. Whether you choose an audience or you don't, streaming in general, it can just not work out. Sometimes it happens and it's totally normal, it's totally natural. It doesn't mean that you should feel bad about it, okay? There's something that a lot of people struggle with, and we're just, you know what, we're gonna get into it here. That is failure, okay? A lot of you are so afraid of failure that you won't even try. And a lot of you are so afraid of failure that you will pretend that you're not actually afraid of failure, and you will kind of like mask the true fear, and you'll say that you're actually afraid of something else. But I promise you, this is the #1 fear that a lot of people have. It's failure, and it's this idea of like, well, who am I to do that? Who am I? And imposter syndrome, okay? Failure and imposter syndrome. These two things are absolutely killing most small streamers. You're so afraid to fail that you don't even try, and you don't believe that you're good enough, so you don't even try. And so what you do is you put yourself in this situation of not doing anything unique and nothing different because you don't want to fail, and you don't want people to think that you don't deserve to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I know that it's difficult, but people who are successful, they're not any different from you, okay? They're not any different at all. They are just people who have failed more than you have. If you really want to be successful, I encourage you to start looking at the things that you try as it's not a success or a failure. It is always a learning experience. Whether you get that 100,000 subscribers or you get that 1,000 subscribers on Twitch, or you get, 100 viewers and you get partnered someday, that is not the determining factor of whether or not the time that you spent on the thing is worth it. It is worth it always because you learn, because the things that you learn are going to put you further ahead of everybody who's too afraid to try because they're afraid to fail and they're afraid of who they actually are. And so because you're going to be ahead of all of those people, you're literally going to be in the 1% of people who actually tries, because 99% of people are going to be too afraid of failure and too afraid of well, who am I to do this? And so they're not even going to try. But you can easily be in the 1% if you just try and you understand that failure is only part of the process. It does not define you. It doesn't make you less of a content creator, and that you already have everything inside of you that you need right now to be successful. You don't have to create this crazy lifestyle for yourself. You don't have to be the crazy, best gamer out there in order to be a success. You just have to figure out what it is that you uniquely can offer people. And you have to position yourself to be able to give it to them. And so making this choice, I know, is difficult, but remember that you're not pushing anyone away, and that whenever you do finally make this choice and you decide to create all of this amazing content for a specific group of people, it's going to immediately make you stand out versus everyone else, because most people will not make this choice. They will not make this decision. And once you do, you're going to be further ahead than 99% of streamers. Okay, step 3 in this process, baby, let's do it, is define. Okay, so I should have really zoomed in. That's horrifying. I'm sorry. So we talked a little bit about knowing yourself and then figuring out who you are and finally making the choice. Okay, this is the type of person that I want to help, and starting to create all of your content for that specific person. Now you actually have to define, okay, but who really is that person? Who am I actually creating for? And so some of the things that you need to figure out about this person are going to help you clarify exactly who they are so that you can create better content and attract more of this type of person to grow your viewership numbers and grow your stream. So some questions that you need to ask yourself are, how old are they? What's their age? Because creating content for a 17-year-old is very different from creating content for a 35-year-old, right? And that experience is going to be very different for the 17-year-old and for the 35-year-old. The second thing that you can ask yourself is, I lost it. Oh, location. Are they located in the US? Are they in a Spanish-speaking country? Do they speak French? What are they doing? Where are they actually at? And this can come down to lifestyle as well. Okay, so we'll actually put that down for number 3, because their location might be school. It could be their career. It could be, it could even be something totally ridiculous and off the wall. Maybe they're in a mental health rehabilitation center. Maybe they're in rehab for an addiction. Maybe they are in the South, and that's something that you need to specifically cater to. Maybe they are in a Latin American country. Oh my gosh, maybe they're in Latin American. I can't. So the idea here is that you want to understand how old they are, where they are, and what their lifestyle is, because creating content for a student versus someone who already has their degree and is in a well-paying job is going to dictate very, very different kinds of content needs. The next thing that you need to know, gosh, I cannot talk today, is their dislikes. What are they really not into? Okay, so some people are really not into drama. Some people really don't like a specific kind of video game. Some people really don't like when people are taking advantage of the gaming community. So you need to know with this person that you are choosing to target, what are they really super not interested in? Because if you can figure that out, it's gonna help you position yourself a little bit stronger so that they don't end up disliking you too. The next thing that you wanna know is their desires. Okay, so their desires are really important because their desires are what they want. And what they want is what you're gonna give them in your content. And so this desire, right, it leads to a want, and the want leads to the content. And this is literally the stuff that you make. This is how you figure out what kind of content that you need to make, y'all. You just have to figure out the desires of a specific person that you have gone through this process with to learn more about them so that you can finally create content that sticks out, that people understand, and that feels like it's catered to a specific type of person. You want to be careful with this because sometimes people get trapped here, and whenever they start thinking about, okay, I really want to define this person a little bit more, what they end up doing is they cater too much to someone's needs. And people's needs are very, very important. However, if they don't want what they actually need, you're gonna have a hard time convincing them to watch any of your content because they need to want what you're giving them. So if you are, let's say, you wanna create a content experience for people who really love gardening. If you are creating content over that specific thing, you want to think, okay, someone who really loves gardening, I'm going to go through every single one of these questions, but what are their desires? What are the things that they're struggling with? What do they really want to achieve in their life? Well, they probably want to grow bigger plants. Maybe they want to start a plant business. Maybe they want to, gosh, I don't know. I know this this is not a gaming analogy, so this is probably a little confusing for some of you, but you want to figure out that person's desires. But maybe one of their needs is like, well, they need to figure out how to keep bugs off of their plants. And then you start making a bunch of content about how to keep bugs off of your plants. But if they're not at the point where those bugs are turning into pests and are literally eating away all of their plants, they're not at the place where they really truly want that content yet, and so that content is not going to take off. And so whenever it comes to creating gaming content or there are a lot of you who do like art content or IRL or just chatting. This system applies no matter what kind of content you're creating. And so what you have to think about is, if I'm doing a just chatting stream, what kind of person am I trying to attract, and what are they struggling with in life? What do they want out of their life? And focus on the want, not necessarily the need. You are going to have a lot easier time creating content that people want than trying to convince people that you are creating content to give them a solution that they need if they don't necessarily want that solution yet. Another thing that's really important about this is that you know that timing really matters too. So we can create stuff that people want, and you know, like all of that is really important. And yeah, maybe there is a group of people out there who want the content that you have to share on Twitch. However, those people might not be on Twitch yet. And so if they are not on Twitch, you're giving yourself the extra job of having to go out and find them and then convince them that Twitch is a platform that they should be on so that they can get your content, which is the content that they want. So it might be something that you're willing to do that work for. You might want to go out and actually knock door to door and go and bring those people into your space, but you might not want to do that work. And so you need to think of who's actually already on this platform that I can resonate with. And this is really important because if they're not there, it's going to be really difficult for you to actually grow unless you're willing to put in that work. Timing is important, but there's another thing that's really important, and that is execution. Execution is really everything. You can know your target audience, you can have all of this information, but if you don't execute well on it and you don't create enough content for these people, you're not going to build a brand that is obvious enough to them to be able to resonate with them and to convert them into followers or subscribers once they actually get into your stream. So what you really have to do is figure out the audience, figure out who you're going to cater to, okay? Create content for them, but you have to make it so freaking obvious that this is what you do. OBVY. It has to be obvious to them, because if it's not super obvious that you're creating content to solve a problem and create a transformation for this specific person, they are not going to understand what you do, and so they're not going to follow anyways, and you're going to have done all of this work for absolutely no reason. You're gonna have shifted so much of your content that you're already making now for literally no reason if it is not obvious to people what your brand does and what you are there to transform. So the execution of this is really everything, and that's why everywhere that you create content, you have to tell people exactly who you are and exactly what you do and make it like dumbed down for them. You have to tell them like, I help streamers grow their stream, done. And you put that in your Twitter bio, you put that in your Instagram bio, on your banners, in your YouTube, you say it in every single video, you say it multiple times during every single stream, and you make it just super, super obvious who you are and what you do, so that way there is no chance that a single person who comes into your space is gonna question who your audience actually is. You want this information to be so obvious to people that literally anyone can show up into your stream, pop in, and figure out exactly who it is that you create for. So for a lot of you, what you're gonna end up doing with this is you're gonna end up choosing people who are a lot like you, which is gonna make this process of figuring out who your audience is a lot easier. And it's a lot easier to create content for a specific person if you are that specific person, because you've gone through something in your life that other people have gone through as well. And so you've caused some kind of transformation in your life, or maybe you're currently going through it and you just want to help other people through it as well. And that's going to make your job a lot easier to figure out how to create the actual content that you want. I go into all of this in a bit more detail in my ebook, or at least I talk a lot more about audiences in that book. So there's a link for that down below if you have not checked that out already. Something else that you need to know about this is that this is a process, okay? This is not something that for most of you, you're gonna be able to just like watch this video and figure out, okay, I know exactly who my audience is. It's something that you are going to refine over time, because it is so difficult to start on Twitch and to really know exactly who your audience is without spending truly any extra time except for watching this YouTube video. Sometimes you're not in a position in your life to really know who you can truly affect and who you can truly impact enough to be able to create an entire content ecosystem and an entire content brand for. Sometimes you are in the position in your life where you are currently becoming the person that you need to be able to figure out all of this stuff, to be able to create really great content, to be a full-time content creator. And so the reason that I said earlier timing is so important too is because it's partially timing for you and your life, and you might not be in a place where you are really truly ready to be a full-time content creator, or just to be a streamer or a partnered streamer in general. You might be evolving into that person right now, but you just happen to be streaming at the same time that you're evolving into being that person. And so it's going to be really frustrating for those of you who are in that situation where you're streaming and streaming and streaming, and you don't like truly internally have like what it takes to be a partner, which I say with air quotes because like that's a problematic statement which I would need to create a whole other video for. But there are a lot of you who are frustrated because you're not growing and you're not figuring this out and you don't know why. And most of that is because you just aren't there yet. You just don't get this, you don't get the other things that I'm talking about in this playlist, which is a playlist about like master classes of all of this information that it really takes to grow your stream if you're struggling. And it might just be a matter of time. And so that's why I say something that you really need to know about this is you need to know how to refine it. You need to know that over time, it's gonna shift, it's gonna change, and you need to figure out how to choose and finally make the choice of who it is that you want to create. Because let me tell you, this decision is one of the easiest decisions that you can make in your career of being a content creator. This like very, very foundational stuff, y'all, is not difficult. You just have to make a choice. You just have to choose a group of people and you just have to do it. And you can't like waffle around on this forever. Eventually, you're gonna have to make the decision if you actually want to grow. I talked a lot about imposter syndrome, and so something that I think is really important that I say about imposter syndrome right now is that you have a choice between imposter syndrome and really deciding that you deserve your dreams. And imposter syndrome can hold you back. If you feel like you're not deserving of your dreams, or like, well, who am I to be able to create that kind of content? Who am I to be able to make that kind of stuff? You're gonna hold yourself back so bad because you're not gonna allow yourself to truly walk your truth and to really be the content creator that you can be. I don't want you to hold yourself back because you're afraid to fail, or you're afraid of what other people are gonna think, or you just can't get there because you don't understand how to use all of this information, right? This is a journey. It is something that takes time. And so that is why learning how to refine this and going back and watching all of these videos is gonna be very, very important, because throughout your career, you're gonna forget some of this stuff and you're gonna need a refresher. So don't hesitate to make this choice. Even though it is a little difficult, you can definitely get there. So to sum everything up for you, okay, this is literally the process to figuring out your audience. This is everything that you need to know. This is not how to stand out. Okay, this is not how to be unique among like 5 million other streamers. And this is not how to create content for those people. But this will help you figure out who you create for, so that you can finally start creating the content that is going to resonate with this specific group of people, and hopefully will help you someday achieve all of your goals with your stream. So something that's really difficult about this process, and about this video specifically, y'all, is that this is very nebulous stuff, okay? This is not like an actual step-by-step process that I can guide you through. Whenever it comes to truly figuring out who your audience is, a lot of it just takes internal reflection, internal conversation, and you learning more about yourself and going out and just asking questions about you. And I can't really direct you on what it's gonna take for you to do that. I can tell you that doing exercises really helped me, but that might not be what actually helps you get there. But this is something that once you figure it out, it's like you flip this switch inside of your brain and the light bulb finally goes off and you're like, oh my God, I get it. I understand who my audience is. And then you start creating content for those people, and everything just makes way more sense once you start doing this. But without doing this, you're gonna create for literally everybody, and you're not gonna stand out at all because you are a gray Power Ranger. So after you know all of this information, you figure out who your audience is, your next step in this process is really figuring out how to create great content for them. And so in this video, I actually go in depth into how to create great content, and it is way less nebulous than this one was, so I can actually tell you exactly what makes content valuable. Go and watch that big masterclass if you haven't already. I'll see y'all over there. Bye!